I just rewatched Scarface. It's as brilliant as ever, of course. But something happened in it that I couldn't quite make sense of, like in terms of the meaning of it. What does it mean? And rather than thinking about it for a while and then doing research and saying what I think it means, I would really be curious to know what you think it means. Because a lot of the times when I come up with my own ideas, they either just happen or sometimes I have to think about them and then I'll go on Reddit and I'll see these really interesting theories and I'll always reference them. But it might lead me to, it might be a springboard to some idea that I have. I'm just going to go straight to the people here and ask you what this moment in the movie means because it happened. I remember it happening, but it didn't impact me as much. So, I mean, spoiler alert here, but it's been since 1980s. He goes through all that in the beginning of the movie to the end where he's supposed to kill a guy who's going to give a speech at the United Nations, right? And his bosses, Tony Montana's bosses, are like, this is how we square up. You got to kill this guy. And they put a car bomb underneath his car, and they weren't expecting his children to be in the car. And Tony Montana's like, no way, man. After all the killing he's already done or is going to do, he's like, I don't kill kids. And then he ends up killing the guy who has the button to explode the car bomb. And they wanted it to be done in front of the United Nations, so they're following him. And finally, Tony Montana just takes out his gun and says, bam, kills the guy. So my reaction to that initially, or watching it again recently, was like, wow, this guy, as much of a kind of an animal as he is, he has some sort of boundary, which for some, and I'm not trying to make him sound like a hero because he's not. I don't think he's a hero. But again, I want to hear what you have to say. But to me, it just really struck me as like, wow, here's a guy who is willing to do all this stuff, say hello to my little friend. He's willing to kill all these people. He's willing to get to the top and murder and manipulate and do all kinds of terrible things. But he's like, no kids, leave children out of this. I don't know, there's something about it that I respected so much. And it doesn't change my opinion of the character as a person. I'm still not somebody I wanted to be around. If I walk into a bar and I see a Tony Montana type character, I'm walking out. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want any of that energy. But to think about the meaning, whatever it is, of him drawing a line in the sand and going, now this is where not just me, but everyone needs to follow this, and those kids are not going to get harmed. And he's willing to basically commit suicide by doing it, because when he kills that guy who's, working for his boss, that's the end of Tony Montana, right? So he makes the decision, I'm going to bury myself here before I bury kids. That is not happening. For some reason, it really hit me hard, and I really want to know what you have to say. So I'm gonna open up and just see what comments come in. I'm really looking forward to this. I hope it turns into like a Reddit type thread, because I really want to try to understand this. Maybe I'm making too much of it. That's a big thing, a big possibility as well. Maybe it's just a nice guy or a terrible guy who did something nice once, and then the rest of it is just like, well, he's still a murderer, and he is. But they're, in terms of like cinematic symbolism or metaphors or something, like it for some reason it just really stuck with me, and it's been weeks that I've been thinking about this, and I don't know. I just don't know what to think of it. I mean, it impacted me in a way that makes me feel, in a weird way, hopeful. Thinking about that world or the world in general, that there can be some sort of a boundary even within all the sea of crime and blood that exists in that world, that there's still somebody who's willing to go, nope, not this. That's too far, So I don't know if it's like Guns N' Roses kicking Izzy Stradlin out of the group. They're like, look, we like drugs, but you got a problem, man. Like, that's when you know you have a problem, is when Guns N' Roses turns to you and says, hey, like, you're partying too hard, okay? I don't remember how that analogy worked. But anyway, what do you think of that moment? Does it ring with you? Does it resonate with you at all? Um, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Tony Montana, his one rule, it seems like, don't kill kids. What's your take?